Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome to the very first production of ASHFORD GARLEY Live in 2024 on this second day of January 2024. Well, folks, sit back, relax. What is going on in Liberia? And first, as always, folks, we just want to give God the glory for being able to see 2024. Father God, we are grateful to you. Thank you for the gift of wisdom. Thank you for mercy. And thank you for grace. You woke us up this morning. We were able to go and fetch for food for our family. With that, we want to give you thanks. We pray for traveling mercy for our significant others as they go to the next destination. And with that, we just want to say thank you. Well, folks, some heard the name, some heard people talk about them. You've gotten the opportunity tonight to match the name, face, and voice. This is the medicine of the microphone. The golden voice of radio. Africa's media doobie-doo extraordinaire. The media mogul creator. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. Basi yompru. Seko wuri aye pelea. Bedi aku ye gwe play. You wouldn't know muzu anyone ye madobo. Yours truly. ASHFORD the giant, the now you know me GARLEY. Welcome to the show. Well, folks, don't be selfish tonight. Invite a few friends. I'd like to say hi to Sando Hubert, Emmanuel Tombe, Massa Riggs. Share the video, invite a few friends so that we can together have a great time tonight as we come to you from a city near you. Oh, man. Okay. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we have quite a few folks coming on tonight, but to begin the show, they have Dr. Optimus W. Gay, based out of Charlton, Chicago. Dr. Gay, hello and welcome to the show. You might want to please unmute your device.
Hello, my brother. Happy New Year to you. Good that we roll over the new year. And looking forward to a better Liberia and a better community all over the diaspora.
It is a blessing, my brother, and Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year to your family, and Happy New Year to all of your business partners. And we're praying that God grants you your heart desires as we dive into 2024.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Seem your way.
Tell us about your faith on crossing over to 2024. What are your resolutions, man? I mean, you are this researcher guru. You're all over the place. You're very busy. 1 minute you're in Liberia, the next minute you're in Washington D.C., and you're in Europe. Talk to us.
Well, it's a very important year for Liberia and also for the U.S. You know, Monrovia turned 200 as a city. Monrovia, the name Monrovia was given April 1824. So it is important that we use this occasion for a renaissance, because Monrovia is where we do call.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you know, it is something that can bring us together at this time. So having a new administration coming into play, this could be a setting point for a new Monrovia, literally a new Monrovia, a new Liberia. So I didn't make too much resolution. I thought most of it was done by your hard work, by what Spoon did, by all of you who collaborated to tell the Liberian people the Liberian story. And for that, we hope and we pray that 2024 will become a new renaissance for Mother Liberia. So that's my resolution.
You frequent Liberia quite a few times, and did you see this coming? Did you see this coming in this 2024 that George Weah would have been a one-term president? Did you see it coming?
ASHFORD, if I send you an article that I'm featured in the Mississippi Press, November 18, 2018, 2019 to be specific, an article was written and in which there's a comparative analysis that I did between Donald Trump and George Weah. It will amaze you that in that post, I stated that Liberia will go through the same thing under Trump, and it will be the same. And we must most likely have a one-term president in Liberia. That was a saying that I wrote in 2019, November 18. And I'm going to say in the post. So when I go back to the post, I saw that too early. Now, why and how did I see that? The fact that a man who people put paraded as this multi-millionaire, and I too am a sports agent. I work with FIFA, United States Soccer Federation. I know almost every player, veteran, old player, what they earned after retirement. And to see that narrative, I felt the dishonesty was too strong, and the Liberian will vote Mr. Weah out because he will not live to what I call administrative justice, which is a sense of administrative corruption that he allowed to fester in his administration.
You didn't want to struggle with the George Weah administration. The problem, you started facing problem during the previous administration. Based on what you wanted to do for your country, in terms of getting donations that could be used in Liberia and to change the lives of our brothers and sisters back home. But things did not come through like you'd expected on an Ellen, and now where?
Hmm. Well, Ashford, I've always, from a center, Liberia is not a strong political party leaning country. We're very unique in a region. If you check our history, no political party. So what Ellen did was to set up a second or third term through George Weah. That's what Ellen did. So under her administration, you could see the breakdown of the basic fight Liberians were pushing for, reconciliation. Ellen couldn't reconcile this country. So we tried. You said it well. In fact, it was amazing that we responded to the Ebola crisis during the Ellen time. In fact, I was going to Liberia. I already lived in Zimbabwe, so I knew about Ebola. And it was almost like I saw George Weah administration collapsing 6 years ago. I saw that happen. A white friend of mine, he's here. We were traveling together. We cut off our flight in April because we knew that there was an experiment that was already done in Guinea by an American Canadian company on Ebola. And how come to this day there had not been done any research to ask this company? This company received $300 million to do an experiment in Guinea, in Liberia, and Sierra Leone, and that was never recorded. So you could see that this was a country that never even either somebody got paid on the hand and they didn't want to talk about it. But we saw it. We wrote, and you could see the collapse of Ellen's second term. So it was not a surprising thing that Ellen failed in her second term. That's why we graded her a C minus, even though Mr. Weah graded her a B plus. But we knew, looking at our data and all indicators of nation building, Ellen's second term was bad. So we sent medical supplies from Chicago. You know, the hospital, Walter Reed's. Walter Reed donated all of his equipment to Liberia. You know, when they built the new center, Liberia was first on the list, and the Liberian government couldn't lift a single mattress from John. And the Ghanaians and Nigerians took advantage and built some of that current teaching hospitals that our Liberians go to today for treatment. So that's a Liberian story, which we
Well,
hope
the Liberian people asked for a change. Change meaning they wanted the replacement of George Weah. And the voters listened and made a decision. Today we have a president-elect of the Republic of Liberia. Now we have a transition team in place. Some will say the transition team is working, but others will say it's a little frustrating. You can't seem to get anything done. The outgoing administration is not cooperative with the incoming administration. Uh, uh, in fact, with just less than 2 weeks or less than 3 weeks to inauguration, President Weah is still making appointments, starting off with the now Justice Minister. He just appointed him Associate Justice, while we still have the Associate Justice letter was sent to the Senate. And today we heard another appointment of the Commissioner General at the LRA. You know, we just lost Thomas Donine. We haven't had the funeral, nothing. The board body is still warm. What's the rush? What is Joshua doing this? What does he want? What is he telling the Liberian people? What is going on?
Ashford, no, Reverend Josh, hello.
Reverend
Yeah,
Josh, welcome to the show.
yeah. How you guys doing today?
Better than good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year.
Okay, thank you. Yes, to go back to the Josh Weah issue. First, Mr. Weah, Ellen, we talked about last time, we talked about the transitional team. It was an executive order and it was to be pushed. Early was hoping that the new then George Weah administration would have taken that transitional project as a law. But what did George Weah do in his first 100 days? They began the impeachment of Cabinet Jene. There was a disaster in Nimba County, the mine that collapsed. Over 40 Liberians were buried in a mine. President Weah didn't think about that. He never even visited. It almost like a repeat of everything. Weah was thinking about replacing a judge who ruled against him in the election process. That was George Weah's focus. George Weah has ended his term with almost the same thing. A major disaster. Never called for the flag to be flown half-mast. A national day of mourning 1 or 2 days. But he was more concerned about replacing a judge, a Supreme Court judge, who is also in the error because here there's a law on compensation. It's a statute that is set up. But did not even read the statute, but thought he could exercise his power, which is in the Constitution. But there's a law that guarantees how a person should retire or resign. So 8 months, that's the issue that I'm hoping Liberian can ethically ask this question, because law is also ethics. You have a situation where there's a code that is defined in that law. This man says for 8 months he was in Ghana. You and I know if we are 3 months away, even a president is sick for 3 months, incapacitated, there should be something taking place. So 8 months he's being paid. Who paid him? We don't know yet. But he writes a letter to George Weah and says, "Thank you for taking care of me." Hear that? Read the letter. So he's praising President Weah for taking care of him while he was in Ghana. It was not George Weah's responsibility to take care of him, but the state. And at what time? So he waits for 31 days towards the incoming administration, knowing full well that he's already in violation of the law, the 8 months law. But wait, because there's a fear that if the new administration takes over, they might question who was paying him for 8 months while he was in Ghana. What's the bill? So now he puts the burden of his retirement or his so-called retirement request on the incoming administration for life. Remind you, it is not for a time being. It is for life. This is what George Weah did. And then think about who does he bring in to replace Musadin, who is a signatory, who has signed so many contracts that are today up for audit, up for investigation. He wants this man to go to the Supreme Court. But it is ironic that the letter from Gisetta Wolokodi, Justice, who is she? Do you know the relationship between her and Dean? It will interest you to know. Familiar relationship, children involved in this. Think about that. So Mr. Weah is basically trying to put a whole family on the court. And who else? Yes, so I rest myself on that. Just think about that. That's why you see you vet. You know people's family history. Who are you? Who are your kids? Who you hiding by? That's why you ask those questions in vetting.
Let me bring in Reverend George. Reverend George, here we are going through a transition. We just lost the Commissioner General of the LRA with a major disaster on our hands. We never saw any sign of the president to go see the disaster site, and then call for a day of mourning following the disaster. But he's concerned about replacing Thomas Dode 9. He's concerned about appointing Musa Dan as Associate Justice to the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you, and Happy New Year to my colleague, the panelists, and those who are watching. Happy New Year to all of us. It's a philosophical thing that we We slept on Sunday, we woke up Monday, and we say we are in a new year. Anyway, we made ourselves to believe that it's part of life. So we say Happy New Year because Sunday didn't know different from Monday. So I don't know. But anyway, let's get to the issue you are addressing. Quite frankly, I beg to disagree this time around because of two reasons. The first reason is, there was a time Barack Obama used the phrase, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. And so whoever we elect to put in power, there are moral issues and there are political issues, there are legal issues. So I believe the president is politically correct. He's still the president of the Republic of Liberia to make appointments. Now you look at the morality, if you want to criticize it, why the rush? Well, again, let me remind all of us and our audience, the simple definition of politics is managing interest. Politics is managing interest. No matter what country is it, whether in the chieftaincy system or monarchy, it's all about managing interest. So I say this to say, if you were outgoing president and you see somewhat lifetime appointments vacant, come on, gentlemen, let's face it. Will you turn that lifetime appointment to the incoming president or you will utilize it as a political ball game? Of course, you will make this appointment before you leave. I don't like George Weah. You may not like George Weah, but that's the politics. It's managing interest. So you may look at it morally and say, okay, there is some uh, quid pro quo or conflict of interest. And the bottom line is, as long as he still has the gavel, come January 22nd, before he can leave power as president, he can make any appointment. Let me talk about Thomas Doe now, who I know very personally because we're at the University of Liberia together. These are people we follow when we're there. A fine Liberian, fine gentleman, principled gentleman. But he's gone now. He's not coming back. So whether the position is filled now or is filled later, but Doe is not coming back, may his soul rest in peace. But again, I beg to tell the whole nation, President George Weah still has the right to make appointments until January 22nd, 2024, when he turns over to the incoming administration. So let's not make a big beef about it because it's not legally wrong, it's not politically wrong, but you may look at it at the from the moral ethics. But it's not politically wrong, it's not legally wrong, it's not wrong by governance. He's doing what he's supposed to do as the head of a government to fill positions. That's how I see it. Thank you.
And that's why I love this platform. You can see your piece as you see it, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Gabe will have a look at it in another way. I mean, politics is interest, and he's right about that. Dr. Gabe.
Absolutely. Politics is interest. Reverend George, you said it well. But there are many forms of interest. Narrow self-interest or the interest of the common good of the people. So here we are in a situation. What is it that is at stake in Liberia in less than 3 weeks? We're going to find out that Liberia now sits as a country without any financial backing. We're going to find out a list of people who are intertwined, interwoven with this corruption network. You're going to find out a deep network of nepotism of Liberia resources, and it's all concentrated in the hands of a few, including George Weah. You're going to find out that the replacement of I know him, may his soul rest in peace. Wonderful man. In fact, I was just reading a piece between him and myself. When I sent those medical supplies, those equipment, those first aid equipment today that will save the lives in Bond County. We are sitting at the port of Monrovia. We are talking about joys of life. We are talking about fire extinguishers. We are talking about the blankets to wrap. We're talking about the uniform to wear. They are sitting at the Freeport warehouse. Half of the warehouse full of supplies from Chicago. I say this to you because Thomas Dole now was involved. May his soul rest in peace. He was not happy with those who were involved, including the very justice minister we're talking about, because in medical equipment, fire equipment are all part of the Ministry of Justice. And he is seeing it and he's angry because his job is to charge what he can charge and people pay. And he's trying to make sure that what I'm incurring, he doesn't like it. He's asking, what's the justice minister doing about this? What's the fire chief doing about this? This is Thomas Joe May his soul rest in peace. That's how good he was. And those things are setting at the Freeport of Monrovia. You can send someone that you're going to see them. You're going to see fire uniform, hazmat suits. And this justice minister couldn't even help out. His fire chief couldn't help out. Those things were stuck and they are still there. I decided not to take them out. Because why? It made no sense. We were to build an emergency response center based in Liberia for the entire region, so that fire in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, could never happen. Because we knew how to teach the young men. We were going to certify people who drive truck to know what we call hazmat and how to deal with such a disaster. You will never have a police officer there without an emergency team to help. These were the program we started for Mr. Weah. Mr. Weah refused it. I call his name intentionally because it was his government. I started right in his office, met with Archibald Barnard, and went to go meet with the chief of staff, and they turned this thing into a jokester. And they know that I had to report this to the American government because those equipment was sent by the third largest city of America, Chicago, to help to set up an emergency response center in Liberia that was refused by CDC. So I'm just laying up this to tell you the ineptitude of this past administration, of this outgoing administration. Now let's use Samara Wolokoli thing, since Reverend George is in George President Weah's right. But here are the issues. Is he following the rules that are already laid down by law? You have Samara Wolokoli named in other report. Why were men who named in an other report now be sent to raise revenue soon? And he gave the decency. Reverend George, you're a pastor. You understand? Someone just died. The minute his death is announced, you are now announcing a replacement. I mean, people will talk about expediency, talk about law, will also talk about the code of conduct that is involved. So I just want to leave that here.
Reverend George, the confirmation hearing for Musa then was set for Thursday, the 5th, I believe, 4th of January this week. But then the Unity Party filed, I'm told, a writ of prohibition, and I'm told it was placed on hold until the 8th. Are you concerned about that, Reverend George?
Well, quite frankly, it's something to be concerned about. But again, we have to consider or look at the detail. What is in the rate of alpha by Unity Party? What is in there? How is it going to be adjudicated? What is the rate alleging though? Because you see, what I'm saying, brother, is that there are sentimental issues, there are moral issues, and there are legal issues, there are governance issues, there are political issues at play. All of that. So sentimentally, you would think that, oh, the person just died, let him boom bury all of that. But rightfully, whether the person just died, you make the appointment, or you wait 3 months before you make the appointment, the person is not coming back. And as a spiritual person, I know, death in the larger extent is irreversible. It was Jesus Christ that said to his disciple, follow me, let the dead bury the dead. We're talking about his father. What is the message there? No matter what we do after the person is gone, the person is never going to come back. Okay, so I know experience speaks to the sentimental nature of it. But the rightful thing is that the president must fill those positions if he wants to before he leaves out. And that's what he's doing. Now let's talk about the rate that was fired and the reason it was filed. Well, the Senate, I believe, will look into that. But Musa Dean, as a Liberian, is entitled to a confirmation hearing. I mean, these are not people we like. I'm just trying to be on the side of the law. They have not broken any law. Even the lady you talk about, whether her name appear in any audit, she has not been convicted in any court of competent jurisdiction in Liberia. So all we can do is, you know, political gesture and say, okay, let's criticize here, let's criticize there. It's okay to do that, but legally, the president is within his right to make those appointments, and those people get the right to. He has their day in court before the Senate to a confirmation hearing. Now we'll see how the issue played out that was filed by Unity Party to see whether they win the day or to see whether the confirmation still goes on the 8th. But by right, Musa Dean, like any other Liberian, you may not like, his tenure as a justice ministry. Musa Dean taught me contract law 1 and 2 at the University of Louis Underground School of Law when I was there. I know him very personally, but power is corrupt, so they may have done things. But is it to the point of violation to be found guilty or conviction? If nothing is of that kind, then he's entitled to a confirmation hearing as a Liberian, which is appointed to the highest court. And again, I maintain the president has a right to fill that vacuum before he leaves office, or he can choose to leave it for the incoming administration. It's all politics.
Folks, if you're just joining us, this is, excuse me, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on BRDGE Radio Africa. We're coming your way from the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and it's about 35 minutes after 7 Central Time, 35 after 8 Eastern Time, and 35 after 1 a.m. Liberian Time. George Weah is within his rights to appoint who he wants to appoint, according to Reverend George. But others are looking at insensitivity, like you gay.
Yeah, you just said a part of the presidency also is you are the father of the nation. Reverend George, you hear the point here. Here we have a situation, a national disaster in a country that was won by CDC. Let me just put it that way. It doesn't matter who passed, may the soul rest in peace. They were all Liberians. President Weah does not have the courtesy to say, let me just get there. That's part of the presidential duty. We pay Mr. Weah. He doesn't pay himself. So you see what I'm pushing here. Here we have a timetable for Justice Nangwe's request he made for retirement. We are yet to see the letter written to Justice Nangwe that we accept your retirement. We've not seen that letter yet. Yes. So we have a situation here. Mr. Weah is pushing the envelope. So let us go. I'm not going to call for 3 days of mourning. It might interfere with my timetable. So it's out of my league. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to visit the site. Period. That's clear cut. So he has a timetable. He has an agenda. And Reverend Judge, you're right. Politics is politics. Hey, if you think politics is all about altruism, then you are in the wrong place.
Exactly.
Now, I still push the notion because I come from the background as a philosopher, as a theologian. So I always think about the common good. President Weah has made his money out of the government. Beautiful. But how about ordinary people? How about the issue of, don't forget, most of the conflicts we fight, they are fought because of resources. Our resources now are entangled on the George Weah administration. We don't even know where it is. Who dug hole to cover what hole? We don't even know which hole that was covered. We have all of the issues here. And don't forget the Justice Minister, Musa Dean, will be involved in almost all of this documentation that was signed. And we've seen the document been coming out. Now, his signature is in them. And these are controversial documents. So what is he going to do? If he were to be confirmed, is he going to recuse himself from this court case? Is that what we're going to have? Then you got Samara Watercall, who name appear in this document. We have those documents now. So what do we do with a man who now supposed to raise revenue for the country? Now let me call a philosopher and a sociologist's name. His name is Barrington Moore. Barrington Moore is an old sociologist. He writes about dictatorship and about authoritarian leaders acting within the sphere of democracy. This is exactly what we have in Liberia now. People using the democratic structure but they are basically authoritarians. They are doing things outside the norm of true democracy. So that's where we find ourselves.
Reverend George.
Yeah, let's be clear. I think there are issues we're agreeing on here. Sentimentally, moral ethics, yes. But what I maintain is that, for example, this little who was appointed to LRA, you see, the incoming government has a lawsuit also by its virtue of governance to say when issue arises from audit and involving her, she can be asked to recuse herself or she can be replaced. In the case of Musa Ding, if it's a lifetime appointment, we saw Cabinet Janet being removed there by the vote of the Senate. So if there are grave issues that involving Musa Ding as justice minister before going to that place, of course people can petition the Senate and say, no, this guy is compromised. He was put there, but he's compromised. And those issues can be fairly adjudicated. So it's not a death trap here that Labrador can get out. George Weah being a selfish man that I don't know why we sit here and expect anything good from George Weah. Being a selfish man, we know this is a guy who built all his compounds in 6 months' time, something that he couldn't do when he was a footballer. He won all the contract he did in 6 months with the poor money. Why do we expect anything good from him? This guy played to his interest. He's when it comes to interest, he's the best politician because politics is interest. So I don't expect much of him, but all I'm saying is what he's doing, it may be unconscionable, but it's not legally wrong. He's not doing anything wrong. It's just like he's always been a man who doesn't care. So let Judge Weah go out the door. The new administration will have the same governing power to look at LRA and say, you know what, this lady is compromised, conflict of interest. There are too many cases to be adjudicated around this for her to be sitting ahead, and they can remove her. The same thing that happened to Musa Din through the process. Musa Din can be removed through the confirmation through the same or Senate. They can vote on no confidence. They remove Cabinet Janet. So for me, it's not a death trap, you know, that Georgia is setting that Labrador cannot get out of. All I'm saying is, these things he's doing, you philosophically and morally may have chosen to do that differently, but this guy is morally bankrupt. He
Hmm.
sees an opportunity last minute going out, and he want to put his prodigies there. Of course, legally there's nothing wrong with it, but it carry all the moral antics, and it smells very bad. But for the sake of analytical argument, I think he's within his right. I agree with all of the moral things around it, but he's within his right, and let's give it to him. Now, let me talk about the mourning, the national mourning, and what happened, and what the president could have done. For me, he could have done both. He could have still made those appointments and also show solidarity with the county that is going through this. It's not a either or. You could have done both. But again, it proves my point that George Weah from day one has shown a don't care attitude. So we shouldn't sit there and expect anything good from somebody who lost the election, who is disgruntled by human nature. He's going out as, is going in history as a one-term president. What do you expect? So I just want us to move the conversation forward and say, look, let's call a spade a spade. This guy does not have the moral aptitude to do right as you are expecting, doctor.
Thank you. Well, folks, if you just joined us again, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on BRDGE Radio Africa. Now, let us segue a little bit. Listening to Reverend George as he spoke about George Weah seeking his own interest. While it is true that we need to change this constitution, especially the 1986 constitution, I mean, the constitution protects the president. While it is true that when George Weah to be nailed, if he was found in any impropriety, our hands are tied. I mean, you remember back then when you had Edwin J. Roy and all of those, because we modeled our constitution after the U.S. Constitution that said that when the president commits a crime while in office, and even when he leaves, we can go after him. But When Sawyer and then came and revised the Constitution, there were clauses in there was like a loophole. And then the same Unity Party, Edward B. and Cassidy, came and went to Doe and said, listen, this Constitution, they are saying that if you did anything wrong, in the event where you leave office, they'll go after you. And Doe sent them back and they revised the Constitution. Today, George Ray can commit all the crimes. In the event when he's not in office, as per the Constitution, it makes it hard for you to go after him. Let me begin with Dr. Gay, and then Reverend George can come in.
I'm sorry, I don't have that portion of court, but I want to believe, like the U.S., we still have that law that when you leave office, you can be.
Oh yeah, USA has that law. Yeah,
and Liberia has that same law, except there is a the George can help me. I should find them. So sorry, I don't have it on here. It protected those who committed the crime in 1980, and also protected those who, in a sense, statute that protected those who fought in the Civil War, and that has been an Achilles heel for succeeding administrations. So it is for me a political, a moral issue that should be brought forth, because that 1980, I think Article 80, I mean, what's it, Decree 88A is still a law. It sits within our Constitution today. That was the protection clause done for the PRC. And then when most of the people don't understand, when President John is speaking against this war crime, there is a clause that was done and it was embedded within the law. Now, to our lawmaker, to the likes of Tia Wangwe or Jeremiah Kuhn, or the new lawmakers, do they have the spine enough to say, look, we understand there is political expediency here, but are we ready to make a leap? That's the question they have to ask themselves.
But the president-elect can do something unprecedented. He wants one term. Can he set this country on the foundation and say, you know what, let us revisit the Constitution? It starts with the head. It starts with the president, and then it can trickle down to the lawmakers. Reverend George?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of nuances here. When we say it starts with the president, we are saying the president must have a lobbying power to move the national legislature to foster his agenda. So if this issue is part of the president's agenda, then the president can use the lobbying power on the Capitol Hill to make sure it winds up on the discussion table. Or the people of Liberia can petition their representative to say, look, we want this thing to be revisited. There are too many crimes being shoved under the rug here under the name of presidency. So we think that this law, whatever it is, law were made to govern the people. It's not governing us. And we can push them. This is where, look, the multifaceted approach we need to change Liberia. We need to have a vibrant civil society that will hold these people elected accountable, that will push them, that will, for lack of a better word, politically threaten them. Because again, it's our interest. You don't do that next time we are voting you, I will not electing you. This is our interest. Let there be some kind of massive civil awareness campaign so our people know you are not just coming to the polls, electing people and go home. You gotta hold your feet to the fire, so that the reason you elected them, they will serve your interest. We have a very strong constituency. These are the things we need in Liberia. When I was in Liberia, our in civil rights advocacy. I worked with Carter Center Liberia, USAID, and NDA during the Henry Andrew election, 1997. We did human rights issues, did advocacy and community mobilization. It's needed now because, the past two administrations, we saw a lot of impunities. And you can't get rid of impunity until the people stand up. The people got to stand up. So either the president has it as an agenda and can move the legislature, because even though there's separation of power, but the president still weighs a lot of power even here in the US. The president wants something that he can say, I want this bill on my desk. And his party and other people can push it. So this is how we're going to go. Now, the issue of immunity, we still have it contentiously playing out here in the US. Today, there are cases in court concerning President Trump, claiming presidential immunity at federal level to be decided. So these quasi law, the society is changing now. We're in the 21st century. But if we don't stand up to challenge these laws, they're still going to draconianly, may handle the people who they were intended to protect. So I say, let's be a multifaceted approach. The president, the incoming president, should be petitioned to move this thing through the legislature, or the people themselves can stand up and call on their representative. Now, look, we don't want any else just coming to power, brutalizing Liberian people and going scot-free because he was an ex-president. That's how I see it.
Dr. Gay, one of the things the incoming president frowns on is the culture of impunity. In his words, he said it's going to be a thing of the past. Reverend George just said, does he have the lobbying power uh, to 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 lobby among the various legislatures legislature to tackle first is the constitution is bad. It's bad for the country. I mean, the constitution gives the president too much power, and there are other things that are very bad in that constitution. Where do we go from here?
Thank you. I think it's a brilliant question. This is an issue we dealt with through our think tank called the All Liberian Diaspora Conference. Very appropriate topic, and it's good at this time with the caliber of leadership within this incoming president. Age is an issue. There's nothing he doesn't have. He could be our Mandela. He could be our George Washington, and it rides on what Reverend George added. And I will push this further. The Constitution itself is not bad, but there are sections within it that need to be, in my belief, amended. It requires, as Reverend George said, multifaceted approach. Some will require lawmakers making it happen. Some require citizen action. And for example, in this modern world, there should be no reason for a lawmaker to be in power as a senator for 9 years, 6 to 9 years. It makes no sense. It made no sense for a representative that long. So it also made no sense with the budgetary allotment of our revenue envelope that they should be paid with what the world richest nation earned. So there is something what I call in the Liberian enigma in this topic. So Mr. Bwaka, the incoming president, can say, don't call me honorable or other thing. It's time to end that. It's time for us to roll our sleeves. Don't call my friends, all those in my party, honorable. We are here to work for our people. It's time for him to put forward his agenda, cutting down on salaries, cutting down on the years that people spend, making sure that you decentralize this government. He should make his agenda and push that directly to his lawmakers. Tell the people, say, this is your agenda I have for you. I want you to help me so we can tell your lawmakers you put in there to make this difference. And I'm willing to veto anything that I don't like. Stand with me and we will fight it together. That should be the mantra of the rescue team under President, incoming President Joseph Bwaka. And this shouldn't take long because Ellen had a whole referendum conference done. It was a waste of our money. Nothing came out of it. So it is time now that Owen Bwaka, he has to. Now people are so hungry and angry and are willing to work to change this country. Because I'm sure Reverend George, you're tired of having your phone ringing every minute. Oh, hey, Reverend George, uh, you know what's up. I'm sure as for you know what's up when you get that call. When you're sleeping, then you get a FaceTime or the video call when you are sleeping. I want to be able to rest so that they can have it there too. So it means the entire budget. You know, when I did my dissertation, the one portion I wrote on is called ethics and budget. It's in my 2011 dissertation. I said, if you don't understand how budget can be made, I'm not a guy in finance, but it just makes sense that if I have a household, and everybody coming to just me, there's a problem. So how do we share this revenue so that the young boys can have something to do? The young men, the young girls can have something to do. This will be Omen Barker's legacy to make sure this country, there's an egalitarian society that is built, that we all can rally together. And it starts now.
Okay, Reverend George, I would allow you to take the last word on this one, and then we'll briefly talk about the protest that was held today at the headquarters of the National Road Fund. Reverend George, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Ashford and my brother there. I think we are pretty much in the same direction. It's almost like, you are describing an elephant. Somebody looking at the tail, somebody looking at the side, somebody looking at the hair, but it's still the elephant. What we're saying here is that, look, Omen Bwaka for sure. What I see in this country is what we call the legislative caucuses that they form in the House, where you know you're coming in, his party has some representative there that he can use to bring issues on the table that are central to his agenda. This is part of legislative arrangement. I had the luxury of meeting some of my state senators when we were lobbying for Israel, for example, the ambassador, the embassy to be moved and all of that. I presented position on behalf of Christian United for Israel as one of the lobbying arm. So I know this is how it happens. So Ambassador Boakai has the opportunity to look into the caucuses, your party representative and other coalition party that joined the UP to make this happen. They got represented in the Liberian House there that they can use to raise this issue. Gone is a time where everybody just, I do my part. No, 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 no. We want this country to work, and the challenge is so difficult. But again, the the they say what, it rises and falls on the leader, on the president, on the leader. So let's wait to see what his agenda will look like in the first 100 days after the inauguration. Like we had it on the show, I was telling people, the first 100 days starts the day you transition and take office from the outgoing president. But yeah, all of the things we are talking about uh, are in the right direction. It's sad that the outgoing president does not show any remorse when it comes to national calamities. Those issues, they are in place. We talk about how, he seizes the opportunity to make last minute appointments, which are within his right, but, you know, there's some level of sensitivity there. But of course, we know who he is, so you got to exercise right at all costs, you know. So at the end of the day, this constitution I will consider the organic body, the laws of Liberia. The urgency to revisit it cannot be overemphasized because, like I said, laws are made for the people, not the people for the law. In our situation, it's almost like the people are existing for the law. No. And this is why we need a very strong, vibrant civil society to push this in. No. If this provision, like our brother said, is not serving us right, it can be amended. So it's not time to be silent. We're going to use this platform. Actually, thank God for you, Ashford. We're going to use this platform to hold the government feet to the fire and
That's
call
right.
out the legislatures.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, if you're just joining us, this is Ashford Garley Live on Bridge Radio Africa. We'll take a break tomorrow on Ashford Garley Live, and then we'll be back on Thursday nights in time. But tomorrow afternoon at 12 p.m. Central Time is the famous political soccer game. And then at 1 p.m. Eastern uh, uh, on the East Coast, and then at 6 p.m. Liberian time, local Liberian time in Liberia. Well, Dr. Gay, we saw a handful of angry uh, former contractors at the National Road Fund who went and complained that they were illegally gotten rid of when in reality, we saw a press statement from the management stating that those were all the contracts were legally terminated because there's an end date to every contract, or an agreement. But we had the opportunity to watch a video at the headquarters of the National Road Fund where members of the transition team said there were little or no cooperation from the senior management. Let us take a listen, and then we can come back and talk about this before we disperse tonight. Sorry, I'm having.
Family, how are you?
Yeah, we are okay.
I'm Rachel Ulimaga Mapping. I'm not putting with the authority to make a judgment. I'm part of the team, transition team, the cluster group that's doing the technical work here. We empathize with the situation, but we can't do anything now. We ourselves find it difficult to meet the management to do a piece of work. So I will ask that you remain quiet and wait for the raffle time to get a raffle solution. Thank you.
What raffle time, sir?
I can't say more than what I said. Thank you.
He's a member of the transition team of that forms part of the cluster something, and they have been having having a difficult to get in contact with senior management at the National Road Fund. Before that, we saw a handful of contractors who complained that contracts were illegally terminated. Then we saw the press statement from the management stating that this was all politically motivated. There's some names behind it who are responsible for this, and they have documentation to show that they came and performed their duties, and the tenure or the contract ended, and they're no longer with the entity. But because we're in transition, we have a new administration coming, so they're making it seem like they are making it seem like the senior management is in there. Dr. Gay.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to reference Reverend Josh here. You know, people take it for granted. A transition team is a serious team. I think one time we had a discussion was heater here, and it's good because bridge radio. Look, you have a TOR, a team of reference. This is a time to get what you want. It's like I'm buying a house. I need to know where I'm going to get my key to enter. I need to know what I have to fix or what is already fixed. With less than 3 weeks to inauguration, I listened to John Molu. His frustration was almost like I may be right or wrong. I think Reverend George may have pushed this too. The thing is very clear. I think if you go back, we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. The USA has left a lot of template for us, and so did Ellen Johnson Sally EO, because you're hoping that will turn into a full document for the judge. We had to make it as a law so that we couldn't go through what we're experiencing right now. So what we have now is a chaos born out of corruption, administrative corruption, and economic corruption. Because what you're going to have, don't forget the essence of the road funds. We have people who now are lawmakers who use our road funds, We have the very Samara Wolokoli name attached to the road fund. In fact, he is one of the guy protecting the road fund. Think about that. So we now are faced with a serious issue in Liberia. What do you do? No documentation. They are Boniface Sadu left with he was disgruntled. We have family. We have the very minister of public work. Husband is also one of the persons that is contracted with the road fund. It has become a mafioso society, a mafioso setup. That is what the people face. You can have a contract and it can be terminated. Like you can have a tenure position that can come to an end. Everything comes to an end.
Exactly.
So this is where we find ourselves. The issue is the system was messed up and the road fund was misapplied. And just Reverend George, I would say, look, if people don't go to jail for our road fund, because this is the first time in our history that Liberian, the guy who ride a keke, the bicycle, those who ride a bicycle, those who rent trucks, pay that money into the national coffer. For people to take that money and use it as they see fit. If there's not angst enough for this to call for a serious referendum or an amendment in our laws, then we are not ready for a new Liberia. I want to rest on this.
Reverend George, he just says something about some of the rules funds money that was misapplied, and then you will have to circle back to the previous uh, management from benefits side to what does he know? What has been his role play there with because the role fund works in combination with the public works ministry, correct? So I go into revisit all of those things, and like you rightly said, Dr. Gay, you have a contract start date and the end date. So for people to come and take to the street in demand of falsely being uh, terminated, I think it has some type of undertone, if you may speak. Reverend George.
I think, yeah, thank you. My mic was, yeah, you see, thank you, Dr. Gay, because you just refreshed my mind. We had this conversation and I was pressing the issue of a scope. I wish Dr. Fix were on this edition to see what is going on. First of all, let's start with the whole John Malu Bunko thing. You are putting somebody out of the country, and he sits there and he tells the whole country that he's coming to Liberia. He can't reach the Liberia, so he stops in Ghana. Everybody should go to Ghana and meet with him to plan a transition for Liberia. What kind of mockery is that? And then that doesn't happen. He turns around and condemns the entire team and say the whole entire thing is unfit to run a transition. Now he comes back to square one, what I was talking about. What was the scope of the whole thing? You know, how do you appoint somebody who is not willing to go to Liberia? I mean, Liberia is too big of a country to run in the pocket of one person, John Malu. Who is he? That's one issue. The video you just played, Ashford, you see the kind of hopeless message he gave the people?
Mhm.
We don't know. We can't reach any management, but we want you to be quiet. How do we get quiet when there's no solution? You who we are trusting, you are complaining that it's even difficult, right? It's difficult to ascertain, it's difficult to find out what's happening, and then you are telling us to be quiet. That's a Liberian way of settling dispute. For peace sake, be quiet. But meanwhile, we who you are depending on, we can't even get anywhere. We can't get anybody to talk to us. We can't get any headway. This is a complete mess. And as though, I was prophetically looking in the future to say, look, if the whole transition is not handled with tact, we're going to have problem. Let some things be nailed down. Let have a scope. Let have people being responsible for different facet of the scope. Like different thing that project. Too many things leads to accomplishing the actual goal. But no, that was not done. Today the whole transition is bungled up. And it comes back again. The Omer Barker may have good intention, but he has to consider this as a legacy that either he's willing to make it, boldly, or he's willing to bunker it. So right now, we can't even sit and say these guys are telling us that the common man, their contract was over. How do we know what paperwork have they presented to the public to say, oh, this was what they signed and this was the time frame, and therefore there's no interest for them, no compensation for them, nothing. In
And
fact, a member of the transition team is telling the public that they can't even get anywhere. It's difficult. We can't get to anybody. So we cannot even sit here and say the people are wrong for advocating for something that was legally terminated. How do we know it was legally terminated?
and
Nothing.
And thanks for bringing that out. We will try to reach out to the communication department of the National Road Fund, but to balance this, we woke up this morning with a group of angry former contractors at the National Road Fund, and the communication department came out with a statement. Would you please unmute your device and read that for the sake of our audience?
Yeah, we thank God we are still on day 2 after
Right.
this embarrassing protest.
Right.
So here is a letter from Emmett P. Coker. And who is that? Who is Emmett P. Coker? He's a media and communication specialist. Now I have to ask myself, who is the Ruth Coker? She's the Minister of Public Works, am I right? So the road fund is being written here by Mr. Coker, Emmett Coker, and it reads, press statement for immediate release, January 2, 2024, Monrovia, Liberia. The senior management team of the National Road Fund of Liberia, NRF, hereby condemns a carefully orchestrated and politically motivated disruption of its normal office activities on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, by a handful of former NRF contractors along with several unidentified individuals. The senior management team of the NRF hereby informs the public that the public politically motivated disruption of the NRF office during working hours is legally groundless and baseless, as the services of the former contractors were not terminated, but had rather logically come to an end and due to the expiration of their contract. The NRF issued the appropriate notices to the affected contractors months ago in accordance with the law and specific stipulations of those contracts. The senior management team of NRF is aware that given the democratic transition occurring in the country, unscrupulous individuals would seek to score political mileage by causing disruption and airing false information in the public. Nonetheless, the NRF remains resolute in its commitment to upholding the highest standard of professionalism, as well as adhering strictly to all relevant laws and regulations. Finally, the senior management team of NRF reaffirms its dedication to the effective administration of the National Road Fund of Liberia and assures the public of its unwavering commitment to the rule of law and excellence in all operational aspects. Signed, Emmett P. Coker, Media and Communications Specialist.
Okay. May I continue my objection to that letter, please, if I may?
Go ahead.
You see, this is typical politics. Now, that letter is completely a political deflection to a legal issue. If you claim that the people contract were terminated, display to the press the term of contract and the day of termination. But you read a whole political spin. I can call it a political spin. To what you call it, to sweep under the rug legal issues that are raised by employees. They said they were wrongfully terminated. I expected the communication department to come and say, okay, here's exhibit 1 of the contract that is signed. Okay, and they say the start date and the end date. But you make a whole political statement to make yourself look good.
Reverend Judge, Reverend Judge,
control.
Reverend
So sorry,
Judge,
let me end this. I don't buy it because
Reverend Judge,
yeah.
This is the breach. And the next step now is to find out exhibit 1 and 2 as to the length of contract involved with these people.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is What the Barbados just read is a statement of defense. It doesn't show anything. It doesn't show that, oh, this is Exhibit 1, 8, and 2 or 3, that this is what the contract looks like. The contract is supposed to come to an end at such and such and such time. They didn't address that. They just came up with a whole political statement. And anybody can write a political statement like that to defend themselves, to deflect. That's all I'm saying.
Again, it was a statement that was immediately released following the output of quote unquote angry former contractors. Dr. Gay?
Okay.
Well, you know, it's so pain because when I drive to Sierra Leone, from Sierra Leone border, from Bow Waterside to the Padiman, all the way to Guinea side, you will see National Road Fund Sierra Leone. You are not going to drive in a pothole. Sierra Leone has its own crisis. I'm only using this to show the importance of road funds. These are ordinary people paying to that fund to see what we have in Liberia. If people don't go to jail, you know, I got one of my big brother in Chicago, Alan Condor. Love this brother. And this brother would stand, he would tell you, look, he doesn't care when what's supposed to happen, he would say it. He said, Atimot, if my old man doesn't do what he's supposed to do, I myself will be the first person on his back. Yeah. And I like that because it hurts me to drive that short distance from Bombing, I mean, from Douala Market to Clay, then going to Cape Mount. That short road takes you 3 hours. And you have the Western cluster sitting there, and President Weah takes this money with his friends, and the divided Samora Wolokoli becomes the head of that money in a certain basket, and he's involved with this money. And if there's nothing done, you know, I love the guy called Saul Alansky. You know, for me, I'm from community development background, ABCD model. He said he loved the devil. You see, I love Lucifer. We know why? Because Lucifer asked questions. He antagonizes because he's not going to say, oh, you know, I'm God. No, he asked a tough question. And that is what I expect Liberians to ask. What happened to our it's time to explain. Reverend George, you need to help the young boys who are on the keke to say your money was used by these guys. We need to find out what they did with it. That's the reason why you don't have a fitting role to drive. You don't need to be on a keke every year for 10, 20 years. You can transition. So we have a political, an ethical, a social problem. But what do? There are people with real faces who took our money. What do we do with them? This should be the question before us. And Uncle Baka, we pray, Pap, that you would hold this and take it serious because the young people are depending on you. They put you there at your age. I don't know what it was you that said it, but God took you to redeem your generation, President Baka, to redeem the generation of our fathers who for so long left our country at this level. You have a young group of Liberians who want to work with you. The good ones, take them and let us straighten this country into real nation building.
Thank you. And folks, that's all the time we have to deal with it tonight. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, we can get hold of Mr. Emmett P. Cooker, who is the media and communications specialist at the National Road Fund. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow afternoon, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, for the political soccer game on British Radio Africa. Reverend George, give us your closing statement.
Well, thank you, Brother ASHFORD, for what you do. Thank you, Dr. Gay, and all of our listening audience. It's good to be back. We are ready again to contribute our ideas, constructively. And as we promised, we will hold this government feet to the fire for the good of the country, not from the opposition. The elections are over, okay? And Liberia has to move forward. And so we will bring constructive suggestions, ideas via this media as the people listen. And it will all be our pleasure to agree and disagree for the common good of Liberia. Thank you.
Dr. Gay.
Happy New Year to everybody. Let us roll this new year into a renaissance for Liberia. As Monrovia becomes 200 years, Duko, I'm sure other ethnic groups will have a name for calling it. Let us go and work together with all what we know from the diaspora and from the homeland and combine our synergy to make Liberia a place that is livable and sustainable for all of us. That's my message for all of us. God bless you all.
Thank you. And folks, that's all the time we have to be with you tonight. God willing, same time, same place on Thursday night with a fresh, brand new edition of ASHFORD GARLEY Live. But don't forget to tune in tomorrow afternoon, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. Liberian time for the famous political soccer game. Come and check out players like corruption, false promises, lies, dig hole, cover hole, Opium King Kong. Oh man,
That's a soccer game.
that's a good game, bro. But tomorrow,
Okay.
man,
God bless you, man. God bless you.
there is no bad road and good road. A thief is a thief. A criminal is a criminal. You see some of these people with big platforms, when they themselves are criminals, then they are bringing other people. They are asking for other people to be held accountable for criminality. How can a road tell road say stop stealing, but you say you're a big role? So we are going to discuss that on the football field tomorrow afternoon. Until then, folks, tough times don't last. All people know the height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. But see your blue, c'est qu'on a épelé. You wouldn't know Muzu, anyone get matable to dry. Are you Andy Wapo? Yours truly. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. The doctor of law, the medicine of the microphone, Africa's media doobie-doo extraordinaire, the media mogul creator. That's what the giant called. Good night.